for deploy.
Underspeed, drifting to the right level. Contact light. Eagle has landed.
Hey guys, Tori here from Overlook Horizon. Welcome back to another launch day for SpaceX. It's a busy time these days for SpaceX. We're launching rockets left and right. We also had a Rocket Lab one go off in the middle of the week, so it's an exciting time. Lots of rocket launches happening here. In case you're watching the replay, today is November 21st, 2020. It is 11:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the reason I say Pacific is because today, SpaceX is going to launch on the West Coast. Not something we get very often. But in case you're watching the replay, like I said, I will have timestamps in the description below in case you want to skip ahead to any of the parts that you want to watch. But if you're here live, you just have to wait and see, like the rest of us. But this is exciting. A West Coast launch. The last time we had one was about a year and a half ago on the West Coast. So we're launching from Vandenberg Air Force Base today. And on top of that, we will also get a return to launch site landing today for the first stage booster. That's pretty exciting. We don't get to see that too often. A lot of times we get drone ship landings, but there's no drone ship on the West Coast anymore. Just Read the Instructions used to be out on the West Coast, but has since moved to the East Coast to join Of Course I Still Love You. And it's probably a good thing because the two of them have been going back to back the last couple of weeks and switching on and off and taking missions. So it's a good thing that they have two drone ships on the East Coast now, but that means we won't see any more West Coast sea landings. Although there's not a lot of West Coast launches in general anymore, but today we will have one. Now one of the big reasons for that is we did have SOWCOM 1B some weeks back that did a polar orbiting launch from Cape Canaveral, something we haven't done since the 60s, but SpaceX finally did it and broke that streak there. But we still are launching today from the West Coast, and it is going to be a polar orbiting launch today. And we'll take you through it and show you what's going to happen. Now, SpaceX is actually live early today, so they do have their live stuff up already. You can see that down here in my screen. But before we switch over to that, because they're going to chat it up a little bit, before we switch over to that, I do want to kind of go through and give it my rundown real quick on what's happening so we can get an idea of what we're launching today. So I think the first thing we ought to take a look at, let's see, what's the first thing we ought to take a look at? First thing, why don't we look at the trajectory, since that's what we were talking about. So today's launch trajectory, like I said, this is courtesy of flightclub.io, which is also going to provide us some awesome telemetry today. You might remember that from a couple launches ago. We're going to have that again today. But today's launch is a polar orbiting launch, roughly polar. It's not directly polar, but southern trajectory. Here, you can see heading towards the south. Let's see. I'm getting better at navigating this Flight Club map. I practiced. So you can see heading from Vandenberg Air Force Base right here. You can see our landing pad out here where the first stage will come back. Launch facilities right here on the West Coast. Coming up under powered flight, which is the red sections here. This is where you get first stage cutoff, a coast phase during separation. Second stage reignites, head off into orbit. First stage is going to do a boost back burn. We don't see a lot of boost back burns, but if you want to go back to the launch site and do an RTLS landing, you need a boost back burn. So remember, during that boost back burn, it's going to completely null out all that horizontal velocity, but it will still climb. So it's pretty much just going to null the horizontal velocity, not waste any energy on nulling that vertical velocity here. Just let it climb back up. Then it will fall back down. It will still do an entry burn, which is what this powered flight is here. Entry burn on the way down, slow it down so it doesn't break up into the atmosphere. And then, of course, we'll have a landing burn at the end, which starts about here and brings us down to the launch pad. So hopefully we get great video of that because we don't have to worry about the drone ship shaking or anything like that while it's out at sea. Then, of course, that second stage will continue on under powered flight all the way up to SECO, or single engine or second engine cutoff, right about here, and then it will be in its parking orbit. And then we do have another ignition, brief one, way out here on the other side of the planet. Brief ignition of the second stage to get it into its final orbit where it's going to drop off our satellite today. So that's roughly what we're looking at trajectory-wise. Weather-wise, things are looking pretty good. We're 80% go for today. Not too many concerns here. You see our ground level winds only about 10 miles per hour. Upper level winds, where's my upper level winds? There they are. Upper level winds is probably the bigger concern here for today because we've got upper level winds that are about 120 miles per hour. These are a little bit high. So this is probably the big concern for today. Remember that 80% go does not factor in upper level winds, but we're getting the jet stream coming pretty much directly overhead here right now. 120 miles per hour is the upper level winds, and not only is it 120 miles per hour, but it's pretty much 120 mile per hour crosswind. That's like hitting a brick wall. So that's gonna be a bit of concern because remember rockets have very good strength vertically, but not a lot of strength horizontally. So these upper level winds is the concern that I have here for today. Satellite map looking okay. Nothing too big here on the satellite map. And I think our radar is looking okay as well. Nothing big on the radar. So really, it's the upper level winds that'll be our concern today. We'll have to see how that plays out. Again, here's your ground level winds and your upper level winds. You can see really going to town today on the upper level winds. So there's our Falcon 9. We're about 25. I should probably update my clock here. Let me listen in for a minute. I am going to talk to you about the satellite a little bit, but my clock is about a little less than 15 seconds off of their clock. So let me update my clock to match theirs, and let's listen into them for just a minute here.
Typically provide you an update on the weather as well, but since you're there experiencing the weather
perfect.
And alongside a professional meteorologist, we'll let you take that one.
Well, we appreciate that, Joshua. Indeed, we are. She's a certified meteorologist, and the weather today when we got up, I mean, it was picture perfect, from the window of the hotel, clear, beautiful sunshine. You can tell how gorgeous it is. Didn't have the fog, but we do have these winds.
Oh, it's so unusual, Daryl. I've been to a dozen launches here at Vandenberg, and I've only seen one of them because there's always fog along the central coastline. But fog needs really calm conditions, and so in order for calm conditions to happen, you can't have wind. But we've got a lot of wind out there today, and that is why we have no fog. But that wind might create a problem, and so that's why we need to keep a close eye on those upper level winds for this rocket. Now you can see behind me, we have a couple of high-level clouds out there. Those are just cirrus clouds. I like to call them horsetails, but they are not going to affect the rocket in any way. It's a beautiful day. It's a clear day, but it is a little breezy. Now 50% of launch scrubs are due to weather, and about 30%, Daryl, are due to upper-level wind issues.
Yeah.
And so these winds occur basically between 20 to 40,000 feet, so pretty high up in the air. And the rocket, it's like hitting a brick wall when they hit those upper level winds.
That's exactly what I just said.
And upper level winds also change direction with height. So it is not good for the rocket, but I'm sure meteorologists are on top of it this morning at the weather office, and they're going to make that decision right before launch. But taking a look right now at our radar, we can see that it is crystal clear out there, folks. So we have no precipitation to deal with. Like I said, these clouds are not going to be a big issue in any way.
All right, so I'm going to turn them down because we all just talked about weather, so we'll turn that down just a little bit. We'll get back to them, but yeah, like they pretty much just confirmed exactly what I said. Yeah, the main problem today is going to be winds. We've got some concern. Looks like they've got a concern of ground level winds, but that's where that 20% violation is coming in, is ground level winds. So ground level winds, only 20% chance of violation, but the upper level winds aren't factored into that percent of violation. So that's actually the more concerning one, because again, 120 mile per hour winds, 120 mile per hour plus in a couple of these areas here. It's even gusting up higher than that. Actually, these are, let's see. And these are ground level wind gusts. It's only gusting to like 15 miles per hour. So, I mean, I'm not too concerned about the ground level winds, but those upper level winds, big concern, because you can see how they're going a completely different direction. And the question would be, what are they doing at lower altitudes? Yeah, so here, this is 3,600 meters. Let's look at 5,500 meters. 5,500 meters, it's starting to pick up a little bit, and really where your upper level winds become a problem is when it changes quickly. So you can see here 70 miles per hour at 9,000 meters, and then all of a sudden right here 12,000 meters jumps up to about 120 miles per hour. That's the big concern. That is the big concern, is how quickly those upper level winds pick up in a short space like that. And of course, I said I was going to update my clock, but they got rid of their countdown clock, so I can't do that to match theirs. But we're about, I suppose I could take a guess. I think it was going to be more like this-ish if I update that. So we're just a couple of seconds ahead. So today's vehicle here, which is the Sentinel-6, is primarily measuring, which is what they're discussing here right now. Do they have music? Can we listen? No, they have music playing, so I can't play that. I don't have the rights to that music. But that's the Sentinel-6 satellite there, which is primarily going to be measuring sea level surface condition, or surface levels, basically. They're trying to measure sea level rise and what the actual elevation is of the sea level. And they also have some sensors that are going to measure the temperature column at various altitudes. So basically, it's an atmospheric satellite it's a Earth observation satellite, I should say, that's measuring sea conditions, temperature conditions in the atmosphere, primarily looking at modeling climate, modeling how sea level rise and all that kind of stuff. So that's primarily what we're launching today. It is a NASA mission, hence all the NASA logos that you're seeing. It's a NASA satellite that is being launched today.
It's going to be something you want to check out.
And he is so incredible. I'm so glad Josh is with us this morning. You may have noticed this satellite was named after Michael Freilich. He led NASA's Earth Science Division for more than a decade.
And he did an outstanding job. Freilich, though, lost his battle with cancer in August of this year. But as you are about to hear, leaders in the space and science community around the world explain why they all agreed to rename this satellite after Michael Freilich.
Might have some, yeah, they got some music again here, so let me turn on, do they have captions? Oh, they don't have captions today, so I can't turn on captions. I would have turned on captions, but they don't have captions today. So that's a shame. Let's get to actually, we'll take one last look here, give you an idea here on the actual mission itself and what's expected to happen here. So let's see, I'll even get rid of all this so you can see the planned launch here today. Launching, ascent, we talked about, boost back burn, and RTLS landing, return to launch site. So we get this flip around, boost back burn, and then it comes back down to land. And then, of course, the payload is going to continue on into orbit. Our timing today, regular timing for the actual countdown, which we'll see in our events list. Launch timing, as far as deployment, we're looking at 53 minutes after launch is when we'll get deployment. So basically, we have to have a coasting phase, and then they're going to do a quick circularization burn on the opposite side of the planet. So we have to wait until it coasts to that apogee so we can do a circularization burn. And then pretty much immediately after the circularization burn is deployment. So you can see right here, second stage engine cutoff, 53 minutes, 28 seconds. Payload deployment, 53 minutes, 29 seconds. So 1 second after cutoff, satellite's getting out of there. Oh, T.S. Joss says the NASA stream has captions. All right, I have that somewhere here. Don't I? Oh, there it is. Perfect. Thank you, whoever just said that. We'll put that back up. Because the NASA stream has captions that we can keep an eye on. So, I guess we'll keep an eye on both streams here. This one actually, the NASA stream looks like it's a few seconds behind the SpaceX stream itself, so I don't know which one we're going to go with. SpaceX or NASA. I guess we'll keep it on the NASA one for a little while until we can listen back in. And I do have to update this clock here shortly, but once they put the mission clock up, I'll update our clock. Can't you just put a disclaimer saying you don't own the rights to this music? No, unfortunately not. It doesn't quite work that way. Disclaimer, a lot of people try to do that on YouTube. They put up a disclaimer that says like, no copyright intended. That does nothing. That you can't violate copyright and just tell people like, I'm gonna violate copyright, but I'm not doing it on purpose, so it's no problem. You're still violating copyright. You can't do that. Let's
Of the spacecraft to ensure
here we go.
its
There's no
readiness
music
for
here. We
flight.
can pull this one up.
The next critical step, the integration of the spacecraft with the Falcon 9 launch vehicle. Sentinel-6 was carefully encapsulated inside the rocket. Yesterday, Sentinel-6 and the Falcon 9 rolled out of the SpaceX hangar, covering the last few hundred feet of its journey on Earth to reach the pad at Space Launch Complex 4.
We are hearing music now, but this is my music. I actually pay for this music, so I have the rights to this music.
Once vertical, the rocket is ready for all final checkouts before launch.
So we're getting some views here, looks like, of actual rollout.
Separately, NASA and the European Space Agency have
not a
studied the
replay.
oceans
Get rid of
for
that.
decades.
But now the two have joined together for Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich. Joining us now is ESA's Guido Livrini, the Copernicus Space Segment Program Manager. Guido, it's great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we just saw video of the rocket rolling out and going vertical on the pad. You can see it there right behind us. It's ready to go. How are you feeling?
It's a big emotion.
Let's see.
This project started.
I'm actually getting, I got the wrong volume up. Let's put this volume up, and we'll mute this volume.
He says Guido Livrini, the
So we're gonna hear that
Copernicus
again.
Space Segment Program Manager.
Well, while they're going to chat for a little bit, and we're going to chat for a little bit, because I'll keep this up, and we'll answer some questions. I did want to mention, we are going to have, mentioned it earlier, but I kind of breezed over it. We are going to have our Flight Club telemetry here up at the top of the stream. We'll have that at launch. Hopefully they show me the clock so I can actually sync that up and make sure that everything is in sync, but they're not showing me the clock, so I can't do it quite yet. But anyways, you're going to see fuel usage here. So you can see the green, which is our RP1 rocket grade kerosene. The blue is our liquid oxygen. Oh, there they are. Let me update the clock here real quick before they hide it again on me. Let me see. Now we're like 2 seconds behind. Oh God, come on. Really? Okay, well. Oh, that's slightly annoying. I wish they would just keep that up for a second so I can update that, but well, let's see. We're gonna try to update this, and let's see. Hold on. We're getting Flight Club updated. I want to make sure that. Let's see. No, it needs to be a little more than that. I want to make sure this is at least close. There we go. So I think I'm pretty close here now. So we'll update that in a little bit. But what I was saying here, our Flight Club telemetry, augmented telemetry. We've got kerosene is green, liquid oxygen is blue. And then, of course, we'll see stage separation. We'll see the fairing come off. And then up at the top, you have stage 1 and stage 2 telemetry. So usually SpaceX only shows us stage 2. So we'll have both stage 1 and stage 2 visible, courtesy of Flight Club. You've got velocity on the left in kilometers per hour. You've got your acceleration, your G's that you're pulling. You've got your throttle percentage, which is what is on the far side. So remember, the rocket doesn't go full bore 100% throttle all the time. It will throttle up and down. Then we also have a new one here. You can see just above the velocity graph, there's a couple of little black circles. That is actually which engines are activated. So particularly stage 2 obviously only has one engine, so that's going to be the engine that gets activated when it's actually happening. But stage 1 has 9 Merlin engines. So you'll see the 9 engines obviously activated at launch. You'll see 3 engines activated and then a single engine activated. So at different stages of the flight, they're using different numbers of engines to actually do those maneuvers. So they don't use all 9 engines to do like the landing burn, for example. A lot of times it's just a single engine landing burn because the vehicle is much lighter, doesn't have hardly any fuel in it at the end of its flight. And you'll see that right here when we get down to this thing will be bone dry. It's gonna have like this much fuel in it at the end of flight. So keep an eye on that. We'll have that up and around. And then we're also going to have this split view here like this, when usually SpaceX kind of does a split screen, and we will see that as well when they kind of split the view there. So we got a little bit of augmented stuff here today that we're going to take a look at it, but we'll get there a little bit later because we're about 11 minutes and 30 seconds to launch here. So we've got some time before we get there. Let's see. Yeah, and this is not, we should say, this is not live telemetry from SpaceX. So this is calculated telemetry based on the vehicle profile. So it's Flight Club does a very, very good job of getting this very accurate, but this is not actually like a readout from the vehicle itself. We're not getting, there's no like SpaceX API that we're pulling the telemetry in real time from the vehicle. This is all calculated telemetry based on the vehicle profile and how the vehicle flies. So they're generally like I'm gonna try to breeze over this, but it's generally relatively easy to calculate this. When I say easy, I'm not trying to minimize Flight Club's work because there's a lot of work that goes into this. Like, I say easy in the sense that I should say predictable, not necessarily easy. I like that word better. It's predictable. You can do this with good accuracy because it's predictable. Not easy, but predictable. That's a better way of saying it. So that's what we're going to look at today when it actually launches, and we'll get there a little bit later here.
Oh, that was so beautiful. And it's so great to see all the kids playing and singing. Oh, that was just lovely.
And there's some applause from our audience gathered here. That's tough to get everybody in tune when you're not together.
All in separate locations, but so many orchestras and singers across the country are doing just that to keep the arts going.
It was beautiful.
All right. Well, we are now T-minus 10 minutes until launch, and this mission has a special treat for everyone watching. SpaceX is planning to land their booster just a stone's throw away from the launch pad.
Yeah, SpaceX has landed their first stage 65 times, but this is only the 3rd time landing on land here in California. And joining us live to talk about it is SpaceX lead manufacturing engineer, Jessie Anderson. You might recognize her from such popular NASA SpaceX shows as Crew 1, Demo 2. Thanks for being here. It's great having you.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited. I don't think I can even contain it right now.
There, and you see the rocket there on the pad. Isn't that something?
It is a beautiful view, and I'm so excited to see it here in person.
Have you ever seen a launch and a landing in person?
So, not that I haven't tried. I tried to come last year, and, you know, Vandenberg is known for the impeccable fog. So when I came, all I saw was fog. So I heard it, but didn't actually get to see it with my eyes. So I'm really excited that it's a clear and beautiful day today, and hopefully we'll be able to see both launch and landing clearly.
No doubt. That's
kind of amazing that she's never seen launch and landing.
I'm familiar with the process. How exactly does the booster landing work?
Oh yeah, this is really cool. So after stage separation, second stage makes its way on its way to orbit, but first stage actually does a flip maneuver. So it continues to gain altitude and actually does kind of like a backflip. And then we have 3 burns that it does. So when it's doing that backflip, it does the boost back burn, which is 3 of the 9 Merlin 1 engines reigniting. And then following the boost back burn, it will do an entry burn to help slow it down as it enters back into the Earth's atmosphere. And then it comes back down and lands with just one single engine for the final landing burn.
It is the neatest thing to see in person, and it is loud. There's big sonic
So
boom.
loud.
Oh, yeah.
You have to even like warn the local residents that it's happening.
Oh yeah.
We want to actually share a special question with you right now. There is a young man, an 8-year-old named Parv. He contacted NASA and shared this picture with it. We want to put it up on the screen. He made a rangoli. This is a traditional decoration for Diwali made of sand, rice powder, and or flower petals in the shape of a rocket. You see it there? There's
It's
Parv.
so beautiful.
He's got his little
He's so
SpaceX shirt on. You
excited.
see that? So they're here for the launch. They're watching. And his question to you, Jessica, is how do NASA and SpaceX achieve the pinpoint accuracy they need to launch?
Oh man, a lot of hard work to sum it up. But there's a number of things. We have to calculate, the orbital mechanics for how to get the satellite into space. But there's tons of sensors and guidance, navigation, control system on the vehicle. The vehicle is completely autonomous. So, as you know, the vehicle is moving so fast. Human reaction is not quick enough to guide it. So we actually have it autonomously programmed to make sure that it does everything that we need it to do.
It's amazing, and you guys have gotten so good at it lately. So we're looking forward to that part of it. Jessica Anderson from SpaceX, thanks you so much. You're going to stick around because for the landing, we're going to have you back out, and we're going to enjoy it together.
Yes, I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Jessica.
And now we're about T-minus 7 minutes until liftoff of Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket.
That's right. The moment is upon us. We're going to hand it over to Joshua Santora and Philip Hargrove for the countdown to launch. Guys, take it away.
Hey, thanks so much. It's been an active few
All
minutes.
right, so while they're chatting it up a little bit here, they have not had the countdown clock up very much. So I'm really trying to get this updated. We may be off by a second or so, but we're trying. They popped it up for like half a second, but they won't leave the thing up for me to update the clock. So, there it is. It's up to date now. Let's see. 38, 37, 36. Let me see. Let's see if we can update this quick. Real quick.
Our LSP team has been working closely with them for the past couple of years to prepare for today, and the United States Space Force range is responsible for public safety today.
Yes, grateful for everybody's participation. Lots of good comments made.
All right, I think I got it up to date here. 10. Yeah, all right. Make sure my flight club is up to date.
As we proceed towards liftoff here in just 5 minutes now.
Perfect.
We should hear a
We're
call for
good.
one full in just a second.
We're good. All right.
For the strong back retract to take
I've
place
got our
in just a few seconds.
I've got our clock now is up to date.
Perfect. So what
So we're in sync now.
top of that rocket where the fairing is, just beneath it.
So we're gonna see a lot of condensation here come off the rockets. That is completely normal. It's both condensation from the warm, humid air that's touching the outside of the rocket where they're storing their super cold and super densified liquid oxygen. So you see a little bit of condensation, which is what this is up here. You'll also see some liquid oxygen venting off the rocket, and that is completely normal because as that liquid oxygen warms up, it expands, it turns gaseous, and it would overpressurize the tanks if they just didn't vent it out. So you can see, actually, they just moved it, but on the next to the interstage, there is a liquid oxygen vent port. We'll actually see a huge vent at about 1 minute and 30 prior to launch as well. Here we go. We're getting strong back retract now. You can see the strong back, gray strong back. Interesting. The gray strong back there, retracting away from the rocket. It generally retracts just a little bit, and then it will completely retract at launch time.
Central and South America on its way up to that 1,300 kilometer altitude.
Yeah, very good. We just heard there Tim Dunn coming on the nets and giving his official go. So NASA is go for flight here. The last few minutes here, we're going to hear a number of calls with closing out liquid oxygen or LOX, and then we'll kind of tick down here to the final minutes where we'll hear we're commanded for final pre-launch. We'll have the automated flight termination system will be configured for launch. We'll get a final go from the launch director at around 45 seconds to go on the way to 0 there, right on time for this instantaneous window at 12:17:08 Eastern Time. That's 9:17:08 there on the ground. So, Philip, really fast here as we're waiting for the liftoff. Tell us about the rocket here. You kind of told us about the flight path.
Well, while they're talking about the rocket, I do want to mention, because I saw somebody comment, I'm surprised 120 mile per hour upper level winds is not an abort. That's from Fox Abilo. There's still a chance that they could abort. A lot of times they wait till the very last minute to evaluate upper level winds. So again, here's our upper level winds, 120 miles per hour, and they ramp up to 120 miles per hour pretty quickly. That's the big concern, is they go from like 70 to 120 in a very short period of time. So it goes up to 120 very, very quickly, that's going to be a concern, and they could call it as late as T-minus 30 seconds. So usually, once they go past T-minus 30, they may wait. We might get a clue at about T-minus 45 minutes, or not 45 minutes, 45 seconds, sorry. T-minus 30 seconds, they could still call an abort. T-minus 45 seconds is when we hear the launch director give go for launch. If it's silent, that could be a problem. A lot of times, if the winds are a concern, we may pass T-minus 45 seconds, and it'll be silent.
Oxygen load complete, which is great. You kind of see some of the
big vent coming up here on the liquid, the strong back right here. You can see that huge vent happening. That's draining all the lines in the transport erector there. So last big vent, they're draining out all those lines, all liquid oxygen, everything, getting everything cleared and ready for launch.
Post liftoff, so stay with us. And we even have a lot very, very late into the show today. We're roughly an hour and a half of milestones past liftoff of getting into the correct orbit and confirming that we have a good, healthy spacecraft. So please stay with us. There's a ton going on, but we'll let you listen in these last minute and just enjoy the countdown.
I will say, again, we'll have this flight club, all these flight clubs options here. Those are courtesy of our Patreon members. So thank you, Patreon members, for allowing me to, because I have to pay for those. It's not a free service. Flight Club needs to make money, so we pay for those.
Launch director is go for launch and landing.
That's good. Good news. So here we go. Are we going to get past 30?
You may notice some water beginning to flood the pad here. That's very intentional. That's actually a sound suppression system that occurs to allow the sound of the vibration of the sound to actually be suppressed, and it also helps with some cooling as well.
Falcon 9 is configured for flight.
Here we go.
T-minus 15. 10.
9. 8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3.
Oh, we're good.
2. 1. 0. And liftoff of Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich, continuing a legacy of ocean observation and international collaboration to benefit all humanity.
Woo! No pad mics here this time.
M1D propulsion is nominal.
There we go. I got a little bit nervous when they stopped counting.
Telemetry nominal.
So there we heard that call for max Q. We also heard vehicle is supersonic, meaning it's traveling faster than the speed of sound. A beautiful shot there from the first stage looking down towards Earth and seeing the plume there created by those 9 Merlin 1D engines.
All right, so we're coming up here. Where'd my events list go? We're coming up here now on main engine cutoff will be the next big event, which is about 2:17. So we're just over 15 seconds away from main engine cutoff. We're going to start that boost back burn and head on back. We'll be getting, hopefully getting some nice views.
Beautiful clear skies there from Vandenberg on the ground. Able to track with that rocket as you see it on screen now.
So this should be main engine cutoff coming up.
Just a reminder coming up here very quickly.
There it is.
Here booster, or first stage engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
Stage sep, there we
Booster
go.
separation is there, visible
Ignition.
on screen now. Beautiful shot. There's the backflip, as Jesse mentioned, beginning with the Falcon booster.
Stage 1 boost back burn is started.
See if we can see that boost back burn on stage 1. Will we see it? Oh, they cut away from it right just as
And
it
that
was
second
starting
engine
up.
looks like it has lit. You can start to see the engine bell there turning an
Both
orange.
vehicles are following nominal trajectories. Fairing separation confirmed.
And there goes the fairing. That's exposed. That is Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich there on your screen. That is the satellite that has been exposed now because the fairings have been jettisoned and separated, and you just saw it there tumbling away. Some beautiful shots on the way to orbit.
So remember, this is going to be a 3-engine boost back burn. If you look at our telemetry up at the top, stage 1 telemetry, you'll see only 3 of the engines lit up. It's a 3-engine boost back burn.
And stage 1 boost back burn shut down.
There you go. There's shutdown.
So we're getting reverse angle views of that engine on screen. That's what you're seeing. This is switching between opposite sides of that second
Both
stage.
vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
And that term nominal being used, we've heard that a lot during this call out. That's a very good sign. Nominal just means that everything is going according to plan within the expectation of operation for the vehicle.
So we've completed our boost.
So we are, there, a great shot from the first stage.
So we've completed our boost back burn here now. Looking gorgeous here now. Now it's going to orient itself and get ready. So booster apogee is coming up in about 20 seconds. So remember, it's still climbing. The booster is still climbing. Even though it's completed that boost back burn, it pretty much just nulls out its horizontal velocity. It's still going to climb. Even though it's completely separated, it's just following a ballistic trajectory. Like throwing a ball up in the air, it goes up until it runs out of speed, and then it starts coming back down. So right about here, this is booster apogee. Now it's going to start coming back down. You see the velocity on stage 1 starting to pick up here. So it's gonna speed itself up here now. And then once we start hitting the atmosphere, it'll slow down a little bit. We got an entry burn coming up. There is also, Ben Gilmore says no pad mic. No pad mics, which is correct. So there's not really much sound here right now. It's a little bit different than all the East Coast ones, so there's not really a lot of sound. There's some of them talking, but I'm going to talk. They're pretty much saying the same thing I am. So no real sound here, no pad mics today, and also no fairing catch, but they are going to recover the fairings, I believe. I think they're going to recover them after a soft landing in the water. So hopefully they'll still be able to reuse them. But no fairing recovery ships out there. They don't have the big net where they can try to catch them. No drone autonomous spaceport drone ships out there, so no booster landing at sea, but they are doing the booster landing at land here today. So this is an RTLS turn around and land back at the launch site.
What I would expect to be a beautiful, very noisy nominal landing of that booster. Daryl, how was launch? How did it look out there?
All right, so well, they're just chatting it up, so we're gonna keep talking here. Hopefully they full screen it. There we go. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted them to go full screen back on this. So this is what we want to see. This is what we want to see. We want this up here, and then also keep an eye on this fuel here, because as we do our entry burn, it's going to come down a little bit more, and then we do the landing burn. That landing burn, there's going to be like this much fuel left in there. Hardly any fuel. So it's going to be going to be very, very light towards the end, and that's why they can do a single engine landing burn. And we'll see that up by our stage 1 telemetry there. You can see the single engine stage 2 burn happening right now. Obviously, stage 2 only has one engine, so just a single engine there. So here comes entry burn.
Entry burn has started.
All right, so call for an entry burn there. I think Daryl and Marina are ready for us. They should be there with Jesse to talk us through the landing. How was launch?
Three engine entry burn here.
Oh my goodness.
Incredible.
There you go. Should be shut down now.
That's why we're late.
We're getting no sound here. Hopefully they get some sound from the actual site in a little bit. But there's our
so clear we could see
our 3 entry burn. Their 3 engine entry burn. You can see, look at the coast right there, coming right in.
So it's going to be landing right behind us, and we've got a view now of the actual booster coming back. It's got its grid fins out.
FTS is saved here now, so we're at the point where basically we know it's not going to hurt population. It's just could potentially hurt the.
It's really interesting that it lands right.
Let's see. There we go. That's the view I wanted to see. Let's see it.
So we're not going to see that first boost back, but we have a clear shot.
Transonic.
Of, it coming down onto the pad. The other thing
we shouldn't have any interruption in the feed. Oh, there we go. There's our landing bird. Look at that torque over there.
Stage 2, and we're going to call that out. Here it comes. There it is.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Coming in at an angle.
Oh my God.
Look at this.
Straightening out. What do you think, Jesse? That's amazing.
Oh my goodness. I might cry right now.
Land it.
So incredible. Every time I see this, it's just
slowing down so perfectly.
Perfect.
Just hovering. There's the sonic booms we talked about, and touchdown.
Oh my! We heard that.
Oh, that was
And Falcon 9 has landed at LZ for landing operator
beautiful.
Into 11.100 on recovery 2.
I'm a little teary-eyed right now.
Oh man, did you hear those sonic booms?
Oh, and like Jesse
That
said,
was pretty awesome. That was probably the best sonic boom that we've heard.
Right? That sonic boom
I mean, those happen every single time, but a lot of times we don't hear them on the broadcast. But there you go. Look at how much fuel's left. Barely anything left in the fuel. And we should also have stage 2 cut off here now. We're gonna back that up and replay that for sure. We gotta hear that sound again.
The crowd that's with us, you can hear them cheering and everything. They're just totally like, in awe. We're so glad that we could do this and have you join us with this, Jesse Anderson from SpaceX.
There's a little bit of like an echo going on from their audio.
Thanks so much for coming out here. What a moment.
So much for having me. This has been amazing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Well, the coast phase is.
I'm surprised that they didn't do SpaceX didn't do their own broadcast for this as well. It's just all NASA broadcasts. But I suppose it is a big mission for NASA here. So yeah, that sonic boom was pretty awesome. We'll have to back that up and listen in to that as well. But yeah, you can take I love seeing this. Thanks to flightclub.io for providing this. But you can see this tiny little bit of fuel here. I can't reach my hand up there. It gets cut off. But tiny little bit of liquid oxygen in that first stage. Practically empty. Same thing with the second stage, too. That second stage is just going to do a quick relight. Very brief. And then it'll be in its final orbit there. But how awesome was that? That was pretty cool. And also, I will say, too, thanks to our Patreon members and our YouTube channel members, which help me pay for stuff like this, all this telemetry stuff. So flightclub.io offers that as a paid service. So we have to, got to support flightclub.io because this is no easy feat right here. So thanks to our Patreon members and our YouTube channel members that help me pay for stuff like this. Because that's what I always say, anybody that wants to take that extra step and help support the channel, it all goes right back into it. Helps me pay for stuff like this. So kind of cool. I like that. So right now we are in a coast phase. We will get the fairing's going to splash down at some point. Second stage restart is about 53 minutes. So I'm not sure what they're going to show us on the NASA side until we get that, but about 53 minutes is when they're going to restart the second stage, and then they will have deployment just a few seconds after that. So that burn it's like a 2-second burn, and then deployment is 1 second after that. So there's a very quick sequence there, about 53 minutes after launch. So we're about 40 minutes from now, and they will have that deployment, and hopefully they show us that. It sounds like a lot of people in California might have gotten to see this, which is fantastic, especially if you're in the area. So here was the launch trajectory here. This is, let's see, can we navigate this successfully? Maybe, possibly. There we go. Let's see. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. Wanted to swirl it around so we could see kind of a normal. There. Okay. So there we go. Here was our launch today off the southwest coast of California here. And heading in this polar track here now. So basically, we just had cut off of the second stage. Oh, wait. You guys can't see this. Let's do this. You don't want to see me. You want to see this. So, and we'll get some music here too. A little background music. So, here we go. We just had launch, ended our powered flight stage here, the initial powered flight. We're in this coast phase here now. So basically now it's in a slightly elliptical orbit. Not super elliptical, but you can see, let's see, can I do this without too much trouble? Okay. If you compare the first pass to the second pass, you can kind of see and get an idea of how the first orbit here is a little bit lower. It's in this, let's see, maybe we can look at it from this way. This might be better. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So you can see, here's what I was trying to show you. We get this launch, this climb up to this lower altitude here, and then we get this powered flight. This powered flight that happens here is gonna extend the orbit over here on this side of the planet. So you burn here to extend your orbit here, and then it will push it. It's a little bit of a boost burn to push it in this higher orbit here, and then you'll get deployment. The deployment's pretty much going to happen right after the burn, so you'll be on this side of the planet, right here off the coast of Africa, southeastern tip of Africa. Here is when you get that last powered flight and that little bump into its final orbit. So that gives you an idea on what we're waiting for here at this point here. All right, I really haven't taken a whole lot of questions, so let me get to some comments. We'll pull this up. They're kind of just chatting it up here, so we'll keep this up for now while we're waiting during this coast phase here. Let's see, Christopher Schubert over on Facebook. I'm 8 miles from Vandenberg. I watched it from my backyard. It was awesome and the loudest sonic booms I've ever heard. Those were pretty awesome. I'm going to back that up and we're going to listen to that again because that kind of surprised me. I mean, even when I've watched launches in person, like the sonic booms always surprise me, but this is probably the loudest sonic boom that we've heard on an actual like broadcast like this. A lot of times we don't hear them at all, especially, I mean, if they land at sea, we never hear them, but a lot of times we don't hear them even when they land, they do an RTLS landing at Cape Canaveral. Let's see, what happens to Stage 2 after deployment? Stage 2 will generally, I didn't even actually look to make sure there was a hazard map for it. We didn't even look at the hazard map beforehand, did we? But Stage 2 generally is going to deorbit. It's going to deorbitate. Right, exactly. It's going to deorbit. So this is the track that we followed down here. There is right here a recovery ship. This green ship down here, this is a recovery ship for the fairing. It's not going to catch the fairing. It's going to soft land in the water, and they'll just pluck it out of the water. So there is a fairing recovery ship down here with some NOPMARs for the operations that are happening down here. So they will still pluck those out of the water, hopefully. But right here, you can actually see this. Whoa, hold on. We got a couple of. Oh, I think we've got. I think I got two launches turned on. Yeah. So I have tomorrow's launch turned on as well. Turn off tomorrow's launch. So on the next pass around, this is the deorbit. Or re-entry area, I should say, where the NOTAM is here for re-entry of the second stage. So this is the other hazard. The second stage is going to re-enter and basically burn up in the atmosphere. It's going to deorbit. And that's so the second stage will not stay in orbit. It's going to deorbit. It's going to deorbit, otherwise known as deorbit. What we say around here. Why? I don't know. I just made that word up one day. And so that's what we're deorbit. That's what we're sticking with. It's going to deorbit. So yeah, that's where the second stage is going to end up crashing into the ocean. Parts and pieces and little pieces maybe make it all the way down to the ocean. Most of it's just going to burn up in the atmosphere. So not a huge hazard to the ground, but that they do put those hazard maps up so that people stay away. Hey, Tom Curtis became a channel member. Joined the Rocket Engineer group. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for your support. Really appreciate that. That's what helps us pay for some of those Flight Club telemetry streams. And now, as a member of the Rocket Engineer or higher tier, you can get early access to 2 Minute Tuesday on hopefully Monday. And you'll get to see that a little bit earlier than everybody else. So thanks for your support there, Tom. And I'll also say, too, we say this every single time, but if you're not a member of our Discord, that is free. And you can join our circle here and become a member of our Discord server and just chat about all things space in between launches. Got a group of 1,200 plus members in our Discord that are a bunch of space fans and space geeks and science fans and Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and 3D printing. Oh my. We got it all over in our Discord where we can just chat it up about science and tech and space. So consider joining the Discord because that is free. There's no cost to that. All right, let's go to a couple other comments. Sonic booms rattled my mother's windows, says Lisa over on Facebook. That's pretty awesome. Too bad they don't do a split screen of the ground cam and the stage 1 cam on landing. Yeah, I'm not sure why we didn't have a ton of great views today, but I'm not sure why. I mean, we did get some decent views, but this was a little bit different than the usual SpaceX view camera views that we get. Let's see. Would you be able to see the pieces burning in the atmosphere from the ground? No way. I mean, this is way out at sea. This is in the middle of the ocean. Like you can see from like land, like you can see like to here from land. So if you're the closest piece of land here, you might see like here. Maybe if it's a giant ship, you might see to here. This is like way out here at sea. You're not gonna see that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would say no. If somebody's in Chile, right? Is that the country? Isn't that right here? I got a geography test. You let us know if you see it, but I don't think anybody's going to see it. Let's go grab a couple more comments here. We'll pull this up too. We'll keep this up for anybody joining so they can see where we are. Oh, and actually I can do you one better here. Let me pull up a different map from Flight Club. Cuz I think we can show you even we can show you the live map from Flight Club right here on their public section, which also shows, the nice thing here is this will show you the position of stage 2, the current position of stage 2 here. So we can kind of get an idea of where it is, which is right there. We've got those same telemetry items here at the bottom, but we'll switch over. I don't know if we'll have telemetry for the actual second stage restart. I didn't ask. We didn't have it last time, but I didn't ask if he updated that to see that. But we'll find out. All right, let's get to a couple other questions here. Do you work at SpaceX? No, I don't work at SpaceX. How can I look this up? Go to flightclub.io if you want to see any of this stuff. Flightclub.io. Can you throw a pie in space? I don't even know what that means, Inquisitive Dave. What do you mean throw a pie in space? I don't know what that means. Let's see what else we had. Does anybody know the clip where Tori said deorbitate for the first time? I think there's a pinned message in our Discord that has a direct link to whichever live stream that was, where I said it's gonna deorbitate. Yeah, we have in the Hangout channel. There's a bunch of pinned messages that go to like the deorbitate video. It's gonna deorbitate. The lobster video.
Lobster Fest is on.
And
Space Lobster ate the T-Tab. That's the answer.
And there's a couple others too. So if you want to see the whole history of all the nonsense that I've said on air, jump in our Hangouts channel and look at on Discord and look at the pinned messages.
Lobster Fest is on.
All right, let's look at this. Let's listen to the sonic boom again, because that was pretty awesome. We should back that up and listen to the sonic boom again, because that was pretty cool. All right, we will, let's see, where was... we're gonna do just the... We'll do just the landing for a second. We'll do just the landing, and then I'll replay the whole launch. But I want to get those sonic booms
as it was going the entire time.
Sonic booms on landing here.
Inspiring.
Mind is blown.
So it's going to be landing right behind us, and we've got a view now of the actual booster coming back. It's got its grid fins out, and that's helpful. It has to use those things.
Yep, it has to help steer it as it's making its way back to land. So it's the steering mechanism.
It's really interesting that it lands right next to the launch pad. We have a little tent over top of us, so we're not going to see that first boost back burner. But we have a clear shot of it coming down onto the pad. The other thing we're waiting for, and we're making sure that we keep track of, is the engine cutoff of stage 2.
Here comes
and
the
we're going to call that out. Here it comes. There it is!
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Coming in at an angle and just straightening out. What do you think, Jesse? That's amazing.
Oh my goodness, I might cry right now.
This is so incredible. Every time I see this, it's just
slowing down so perfectly.
Perfect.
Just hovering. There's the sonic booms we talked about, and touchdown.
There it is, those sonic booms. And notice there were what sounds like 2 sonic booms. Usually there's 3, but sometimes the 2 of them are really close together. But let's back that up so we can hear those again.
Perfect.
Just hovering. There's the sonic booms we talked about, and touchdown.
So those sonic booms, you get double sonic booms right there, because you're getting sonic booms. Generally, they come earlier in the flight. So remember that the sound that they're playing is not directly at the launch pad. They're playing it from a few miles back at wherever they're set up for the broadcast there. So we're not getting sound at the actual pad itself. But generally, those sonic booms are coming from when you're going transonic and coming back through the sound barrier there. Your engine bells, your landing legs, and your grid fins, generally all 3 of them will generate a sonic boom, and usually it's like boom, boom, boom. So the first 2 are really close together.
Perfectly.
We can't really hear it.
Just hovering. There's the sonic booms we talked about.
So yeah, we kind of only get 2 this time around that we can really distinguish, but generally there's usually 3 there.
Slowing down so perfectly.
Perfect.
Just hovering. There's the sonic booms we talked about, and touchdown.
I love it.
We heard that.
That was
There we go. So, yeah, that's pretty exciting. I always forget about those watching in person. The last time that I watched an RTLS landing in person, like it's so delayed. At least from where I watched it, it was so delayed after the actual landing. So it landed, and then like I turned my back and was like, oh, it landed. And then we got the sonic booms in, so that it really surprised me. It surprised me this time too. I wasn't expecting to hear that today. All right, let's see what else we've got. We'll replay the launch here too, while we're waiting for in this coast phase here, because we still got a bit of time. But are they showing us anything live? Let's go back to live. We're not seeing a ton live. I guess we could listen in.
In the 90s, it was about 2 millimeters per year.
Listen into the actual what's up with the actual satellite itself for a minute. Then we'll replay the launch.
Starting in
Yeah,
2000.
Need just a minute to read comments here.
Okay, yeah,
Bring
sure.
us
So,
to it. Yeah.
okay, so, all right. What happens when you hold a flame to a balloon?
I'm going to say it pops.
That's
but,
right.
But I'm just a layman.
Well, this layman is right. Let's find out, right? Now,
Yep.
in order to do this, I have to put on my safety gear. So here we go.
There you go.
Now, we're gonna do this, all right?
Yeah, yep.
And it's gonna pop, right? Here we
Okay.
go. All right,
Theoretically.
1, 2.
Wow.
It was terrifying, wasn't it?
Frightening.
What are we
Frightening,
doing
right?
here?
Now,
What is this?
What
Does anybody
happens when you do the same thing with a balloon filled with water?
I'm assuming it pops as well, right?
Let's find out. Here we go. Look at that.
Fascinating.
Look at that. It's
No,
right
it
there.
does.
It's right there on the balloon.
It holds.
It's not popping.
Why not?
It's not popping because water is so good at absorbing heat that it actually takes the heat away from the balloon before the flame can melt it. And that's just like the oceans. The oceans absorb more than 90% of the heat from climate change. So if we think about global warming, it's really ocean warming, right?
Wow.
That's pretty cool, huh?
That is amazing.
I'm really glad it didn't pop. You know, I was afraid I was going to have to give up all faith in science and join the circus or
We
something.
don't want you to do that.
No.
Well, thanks so much, Josh.
Yeah, you
for
betcha. It
being
was-
on- Yes. All right. So, science has also left the building along with
All
Josh.
right.
Back to you guys at the gravel pit.
I'm going to go join the circus now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Blair and Josh, thank you so much. I guess.
All right, so let's get to a couple of comments here while we're waiting during this coast phase. Oh, and we probably ought to replay the launch. Are they going to replay the launch?
Air Force Base, courtesy of the 30th Space Force Wing. There it is, the Falcon 9 rocket and
Looks like
Michael Freilich spacecraft on at around 9:17 this morning.
Looks like
Pacific time.
they're gonna do a replay for me.
12:17 Eastern time. There you see liftoff. The Falcon 9 rocket.
So I'll turn him down while they're doing the replay. Well, I'll let them do the replay. I don't even have to back up and do a replay. Would it be possible to give the second stage another task after deployment, like sending it away from the Earth to the Moon or Venus or something or anything like that? No, if you remember, if you back up to the actual live telemetry that we had, there's like this much fuel left in the second stage. So you really have enough fuel to do a deorbit burn or a disposal burn, but there's not really much fuel left. So you can't really do a whole nother mission after this here. So yeah, not enough fuel left. Let's go back to a couple other. Precision just fascinates me, says Managard, one of our channel members. Thanks for your support, Managard. Yeah, it's crazy how they can just nail that precision and land it right on the landing pad. All right, so I want to do a proper replay here. Let's go. Let's see if we can find the actual launch itself. All right. We'll do a proper replay while we're hanging out. Usually at this point, I would crank up the volume so we can hear launch, but there's no pad mics at Vandenberg, at least not that they piped through the broadcast, so we didn't really get to hear anything during launch.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And liftoff of Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich, continuing a legacy of ocean observation and international collaboration to benefit all humanity.
I got a little bit nervous right at launch because they were playing the mission control audio, and it was like, he goes 10, 9, 8,
propulsion is nominal.
and then they silenced the mission control audio. I was like, oh, did they go on abort? But they didn't. Remember this booster had 2 engines replaced because of the engine issue that was discovered on GPS 3. So this booster had 2 of its engines replaced because they discovered that there was a tiny little, what was it, like a tiny little vent hole that had cleaning, some sort of like cleaning lacquer clogging the hole.
Vehicle is supersonic. Vehicle is experiencing maximum aerodynamic pressure.
So there we heard that call for max Q. We also heard vehicle is supersonic, meaning it's traveling faster than the speed of sound. A beautiful shot there from the first stage looking down towards Earth and seeing the plume there created by those 9 Merlin 1D engines.
Yeah, so Robert Sutton says, sometimes the second stage have payloads attached to it. Falcon 9 might allow enough fuel to raise it to a higher orbit. It's potentially possible, like it can't be completely ruled out, but remember, part of SpaceX's, and really any modern rocket company these days, especially if you're going to low Earth orbits, part of the plan should be, how are you going to get your debris out of space? And by debris, I mean like the second stage. Like, how are you going to get it out of space and out of the way, so it's not just junk that's up there? Like, you can put it in a disposal orbit, you can deorbit it. So some way you got to make sure your second stage comes back out, and it's just better to save that fuel that you have, particularly in this mission. Save that fuel, do a deorbit burn so you can get that second stage, and you're not just throwing junk up there.
And that second engine looks like it has lit. You can start to see the engine bell there turning an orange.
Vehicles are following nominal trajectories. Fairing separation confirmed.
And there goes the fairing. That's exposed. That is Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich there on your screen. That is the satellite that has been exposed now because the fairings have been jettisoned and separated, and you just saw it there tumbling away. Some beautiful shots on the way to orbit.
TP Seeker says every launch is like watching Tori open a Christmas present.
And
I love these.
Dispatch burn shutdown.
I love it.
So we're getting reverse angle views of that engine on screen. That's what you're seeing. This is switching between opposite sides of that second
Both
stage.
vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
And that term nominal being used, we've heard that a lot during this call out. That's a very good sign. Nominal just means that everything is going according to plan within the expectation of operation for the vehicle. So we are, there, a great shot from the first stage. You can see the
SpaceX does have rideshare mission for multiple small satellites. They have done a couple of ride shares, especially on the Starlink missions. But generally they're not doing a lot of burns for those. That's usually like, we're going to this orbit. Does anybody want to come with us? So you kind of just get to jump in and ride along with some of those rideshare missions. Hey, Rock One says, I'm a lurker that just likes space stuff. I just want to say I love this channel and everything you do. You help even a monkey like me understand what's going on. Keep it up. All right. Well, I appreciate the kind words there. thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah, even if you're not contributing to the chat, I'm glad you're here and doing it. But obviously, you did contribute to the chat, so I wouldn't call you a lurker anymore. Now you're a contributor along with us. There should be a space law saying that you're responsible for cleaning up your own junk. I don't know if there's any agreements in place currently, but generally, I think that's part of like the FAA's launch process now, at least here in the US. I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong, but I think that the FAA's process now requires launch providers to have a deorbit plan for their debris, particularly the bigger debris, like, a second stage. And I think you have to do that in order to get an FAA launch license. Whether other countries are doing it, that's another story. But I think at least here in the U.S., it is a requirement from the FAA to get a launch license that you have to have some sort of deorbit plan. It's gonna deorbitate. What's the best way for seeing a launch yourself? Well, these days, the best way to see it, I would say, is watching the broadcast, just because of everything that's going on in the world. But once things are good and safe again, and we can all just do whatever, then I would say probably, going... Well, we don't have a lot of launches in California, but on at Cape Canaveral, there's a ton of launches. You can buy tickets from NASA and go to... you can watch it from the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. You can use, a lot of times you can get tickets to the NASA Causeway. You can watch it from Playa Linda Beach. You can watch it from the Jetty Park Pier. So you can, even if you don't buy tickets like any of the NASA ones, if there's a launch going on, you can go to Playa Linda or Jetty Park and just pull up in the parking lot and just watch, or walk on the beach and just watch. There's a ton of, you can get some pretty awesome views from there as well. But if you really want the full experience, you probably want to get close and get a ticket from Kennedy Space Center to wherever their closest viewing area is, if you can. Sometimes those are hard to get. Will there be any passenger missions in the future? What do you think? So our next crewed mission from, as far as NASA astronauts goes, will not be until March or maybe April. That'll be Crew 2 from SpaceX. So we just had Crew 1 just launched a week ago. They're going to be up there for 6 months. The next crewed missions will be in March. And then I think maybe you were alluding to, like, will we have any private passengers? I don't... SpaceX is planning a private mission, but I think that's not until 2022. Is that right? And it's still very expensive. Probably your best bet is going to be Blue Origin's, like, suborbital missions on their new Shepard rocket. They might they keep teasing it out like they're gonna start this year. I feel like for the last 2 years they've been teasing it out like, oh, this is the year we're gonna start selling tickets, but we haven't gotten there yet. Here comes the sonic boom again.
Incredible. Every time I see this, it's just
slowing down so perfectly.
Perfect.
Just hovering. There's the sonic booms we talked about, and touchdown.
Oh my! We heard that.
Oh,
there we go. Love those sonic booms. Let's see. Suborbital doesn't get you cosmonaut status. Is that right? I mean, I don't know what the conditions are to get cosmonaut status, but to be I think to be an astronaut and get your astronaut wings, technically you just have to pass the Kármán line, which is 100 kilometers. So even suborbital would get you that. Hey Tori, can you talk a little bit about the payload in relation to weather? I miss your launches. So this payload, the actual satellite itself, is primarily measuring sea level conditions. They're also going to be measuring atmospheric temperature in columns, so like vertical columns. But primarily it's sea level measurements to measure, the variations in the height of the sea or the elevation of the sea as it changes from, day to day, year to year, so they can kind of do some climate modeling around that. So that's the idea, I guess, in relation to like our weather balloons and stuff like that. The temperature column modeling is kind of interesting, because a lot of times the best way to get temperature measurements like in a vertical column, we've left that up to weather balloons a lot because it is a little bit difficult to get measurements in a vertical column of temperature from satellite views. Not impossible, obviously this satellite is doing it, but obviously satellites are a little more expensive than weather balloons, so we still use weather balloons primarily to, all across the country, launch balloons up. They have temperature sensors, pressure sensors, you know, they measure the wind speed and humidity and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is more of the weather balloons are generally for like short-term planning for weather purposes, giving you your daily forecast. This is a little more like long-term climate modeling on this particular satellite. Let's go back to live. They're not showing us anything here yet. There was something. Oh, so these satellites here, these are going to replace. This is one. There's a couple of satellites in this family here that are going to replace the existing Jason satellites. So here's the existing Jason satellites that are doing something very, very similar. This is Jason 2. This is Jason 3. You can see they're in this almost polar orbit, just a little bit, just slightly inclined. And this satellite and the family of satellites here is eventually going to replace these. So this is at the operational orbit is 66 degrees for this flight. So it's not quite, it's a very highly inclined orbit, but it's not quite polar. 66 degrees. What is it? Yeah, this is Jason 3's 66 degrees. Jason 2's 66 degrees. This is actually debris from one of the Jason missions. Also debris from one of the Jason missions. So Jason 2, Jason 3, here's original Jason 1, also 66 degrees. So that is the satellites that it will eventually replace here, is those Jason satellites. And our mission here today is not, oh wait, maybe it is. We got Sentinel-1A, 3A, 2A, 2B, 3B, 5P, 1B, 1A. No, we don't have it up there yet. I thought maybe we'd have the Sentinel missions. Maybe they loaded it in early, but they have not yet. I guess we can get rid of this replay text because we're not doing a replay anymore. Do you think New Shepard will have any tourists on their first paying flight, or will it be only professional astronauts or payload experimenters? I think the first New Shepard, like, astronauts would be, I don't know if I would call them professional astronauts. I think the first one would have private passengers on board. Like, I think there's a good chance that maybe you might see like a New Shepard employee or something like that on board, or I don't know. But that's kind of my feel. I think when they launch passengers, I think the very first one would have some private passengers on there, because I think that would be a big marketing kick for them to be like, hey, we're launching private passengers. Looking at the globe, what are those white dots? So this is called stuff in space. This shows you all the stuff in space. So I always forget what the legend is. The white is just orbital debris. The blue is rocket bodies, like stages, second stages, things like that are still in orbit and haven't come back. The red are actual satellites, and the yellow is debris that we're tracking, but we have no idea what it is. So there's some stuff that we just have no idea what it is. So it's yellow. And I would also say these dots are not to scale whatsoever. But if you made them to scale, they'd be impossible to see. So they're much, much, much smaller than this. So these are definitely not to scale, because it makes it look like we got a big wall that we have to punch through to get to orbit. It's not the case. They're much, much smaller than this. But it's nice to visualize here. You can also see this red ring here. This is geostationary orbit that's out here. Obviously, this big mass of stuff here, this is low Earth orbit that's down there. And then we also get medium Earth orbit, which is our GPS satellites that are a little bit, that's in between here. Those are our GPS satellites as part of the Navstar constellation here in medium Earth orbit. You also get Starlink, which is in low Earth orbit. Here's all our Starlink satellites that are currently up there. Another Starlink launch tomorrow night. We'll be back here for. And then let's see, what's a geostationary orbiting satellite that I can pull up? How about the GOES satellites, like GOES 17, one of our weather satellites here. You can see out here in geostationary orbit, much, much further. Some of the geostationary, these are all the GOES satellites. Some of them are slightly inclined here. But those are geostationary satellites, much, much further out. What's this one here? This looks like a geostationary transfer orbit. And I don't know which one this is. ESA GOES. That looks like International Designator 1977 029A. I don't know what that is. Interesting. Wonder if that's a failed payload. Does anybody know what that is? Somebody look up that designator. Curious what that is. Where is the ISS? So if you want to find the ISS on stuff in space, you have to type in Zarya, which is the first ISS module that ever went up. So you can type in Zarya, and there's the International Space Station. That's how you find it in stuff in space. You can also just type in ISS too, but sometimes you type in ISS and that pulls up a lot of extra stuff. So I always type in Zarya to get to make sure that the only result that I get is the actual International Space Station there. All right, let's check in. Where are we on our timeline here? 47 minutes, so we're coming up on deployment. We should have had fairing splashdown here now. We haven't really heard anything as far as fairing splashdown. I don't necessarily, it's not surprising to me. But the next event that's coming up will be that second stage restart and deployment. Very quick events. They happen really quickly. That second stage restart is only, what is it, like 10 seconds? What is it, 2 seconds or 10 seconds? 10 seconds-ish. 10-second restart on the second stage to get it into its final orbit before it deploys the satellite. And deployment is like 1 second after that second stage relight. So we'll be deployed fairly quickly here. We're just waiting on that second stage restart. Oh, they got some music playing. I was going to turn this up so we could listen in on what the satellite is, but they got music playing, so I cannot. Let's see a couple other comments before we get to the actual deployment here itself. I guess we'll go to this view here, so at least you can see what's happening, and maybe we'll turn our captions on. TP Seeker says Astronomy Live posted a great video of the ISS and SpaceX Resilience, the Crew Dragon capsule passing Jupiter the other night. That's pretty awesome. I'm not going to show it here because that's their video, so I don't want to show it over here, but it sounds pretty awesome. I might have seen that. I've seen a couple of videos so far of the passes. I don't know if it's that specific one, but there are some pretty cool videos of the Crew Dragon and the ISS passing overhead. Let's see. John G. Enjoyed your show today. Thanks very much. Makes rocket launches a lot more interesting when you know more. Isn't that the truth, John? Thanks very much for joining us here today. Haven't heard news from the James Webb Space Telescope program, by the way. I thought we heard news recently that they were on target for their launch date, whenever that was. What is it? Is it, I don't know when we're scheduled for now. It's been delayed so many times. The end of is it 2022 or are we talking 2021? I don't know. I can't plan that far in advance. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing next week. Launch date 2021. There you go. October 2021. So we're a lot closer than I thought. It feels like it should be 2022 because it's been delayed so many times. Is the ISS in low Earth orbit? Yes, the ISS is in low Earth orbit. Why are GPS satellites so far away? So the farther away you get, the slower you can orbit the Earth. So that's why, geostationary has to be really far away so that they can orbit slowly and turn at the same speed as the Earth they're basically orbiting at the same speed that the Earth is rotating. So you have to get really far away for that. If you get too far away, then you'll be orbiting too slowly. But the further out you get, the slower you can go in your orbit. So medium Earth orbits, those GPS satellites orbit once every 12 hours. So if you're in geostationary orbit and you're traveling at the same speed, you're orbiting at the same speed as the Earth is rotating, that means your orbital period is once every 24 hours, right? So the Earth goes around once every 24 hours. The satellite goes around once every 24 hours. Roughly. I know it's not exactly 24 hours. Don't at me in the comments about that. But we're going to round. So then your GPS satellites are half that. They're once every 12 hours, and it's to keep enough satellites in a good coverage area, basically, so that you're able to connect to multiple satellites at the same time to kind of triangulate that GPS position. So the medium Earth orbit there is once every 12 hours. Do they change the name of the SpaceX Crew Dragon each time they use it? I believe the plan is to name each capsule, kind of like they did with the Space Shuttle. So the first Crew Dragon was named Endeavour. That Crew Dragon is planned to be used again on Crew 2. I believe it's still going to be called Endeavour on Crew 2. So I think the first crew that flies in a brand new Crew Dragon is going to get the naming rights, essentially. That's my understanding. So they'll all have a name, but I don't think they're going to change the name each time crew flies. At least that's how I understood it. So we should be at second stage restart here now. Are we getting telemetry? There we go. We got telemetry briefly, and it's gone. Quick burn.
Successful on-time liftoff at 9:17:08 Pacific time. There you see on screen, that's a track.
Nominal payload insertion orbit.
Their nominal insertion orbit.
That's a great call. I believe, Philip, help me. I believe that's a call for, like, we've completed the second stage burn. A nominal insertion orbit. That's where we wanted to get to, right?
Exactly. Yes, the first stage did most of the work of
We
getting
should
out
have
that gravity
deployment
well to get
like
away
right
from
now.
Earth into orbit, and then that second stage, second burn was really just tweaking to get into that final circular orbit.
Yeah, fantastic. And we're seeing now some great shots from that second stage.
Big liquid oxygen vent right here. This is what's happening. That's what's streaming out of there, is just venting the liquid oxygen.
This image on screen is simulating being in the shadowy part of the Earth right now. So if you look really closely, you can see we're kind of approaching, if not in the Indian Ocean now, we're to the east of Africa. The track, as Philip mentioned earlier, that 66-degree inclination kind of put us around the tip of South America and then around the tip of Africa without actually dipping down to Antarctica. So kind of a fun track to take. We're expecting to have signal acquisition of the spacecraft over around Alaska.
Well, now you can see a little bit of the space mouse starting to generate here. Right here, the liquid oxygen venting out of the vent port there, starting to get some oxygen solidified right on the end of the vent. And a lot of times that'll break off and get caught in the engine. Now that we're not under powered flight, it probably won't get caught in the engine, but that's what a lot of people call the mouse on the SpaceX. Usually it's conspiracy theorists, but I'm taking it back. That's the solidified liquid oxygen there that breaks off and sometimes gets caught on the engine. Let's see. Justin looked up the ESA GOES, said that, where was that, Justin? I saw it for a second. Now it's off my screen here. There he is. Justin Gibbs says, let's see. ESA GOES was a partial failure at launch, but they were able to put it in a useful orbit. That makes sense. I was wondering why one of the GOES satellites would be in just a geostationary transfer orbit, but yeah, it sounds like Justin looked it up, and he says it's a partial failure at launch. Interesting. Now I'm going to look that up after the stream, because just kind of interesting. That's what I love, that thing about that stuff in space map, because eventually you can kind of just click around and you're like, oh, what's this? Oh, look it, it's gonna break off. It's gonna break off. We're gonna get a huge chunk of liquid oxygen, well, solidified oxygen now. It's gonna break off. Of course, they cut away from the camera. Go back to that camera. I want to see that. I don't care about the animation. Show me the stage 2 camera. So I'm very confused because
So we really just want to sort of be that interface for NASA.
deployment was supposed to be.
Check in for a second to say we just heard a call of acquisition for Diego Garcia. That's not the spacecraft acquisition. That's a stage 2 acquisition. So we'll be looking for this spacecraft acquisition over Alaska as we get to the Alaska general geography.
Did I get my time
we're hoping
wrong?
to ahead in our show
No.
bring you the spacecraft separation video live or close to live. It'll be a few seconds delayed. It takes a few seconds to get that signal back from the other side of the Earth where we already are. I do want to go ahead and bring in now.
I'm very confused why it hasn't been deployed yet, because according to the SpaceX mission timeline, which is right here, here's Sentinel-6 deployment, which was supposed to be at 5329. We've already had 5329. So, in case you want to see, right there, we're at 57 minutes. So, why have we not had deployment yet? I'm confused. Does somebody know something I don't? I wonder.
Doing the same one that Jason 3 is in decades of continuous data. And so that going up that high means we go up, as high as Alaska and Sweden, but then sweep down below South America. And so it's a nearly circular orbit. And so it's around, around the Earth, it's about 800 miles above the Earth, which is about 1,300 kilometers.
And why such a long coast phase? I know that for those that are familiar with rocketry, they kind of are accustomed to science missions and robotic explorers having a coast phase that can be fairly lengthy. But why this 45-minute coast before the second burn?
So with the rocket, we bring all the gas with us. There's not gas stations in the way. So we want to try and use as little as possible. And so just the way that it works is that, we start in... fly up in the early parts to a
We're looking at the spacecraft separation right now. I want to let you finish, but we're getting that live, and I wanted to call that out for you. So there goes Sentinel-6. That is a beautiful sight. Watching it drift off there. Again, we are kind of shaded by the Earth, so we're not in direct sunlight at this time. So that's why it's as dark as it is. If the sun were on this side of the Earth, we'd see a little bit more of that, but that's going to kind of just drift off, and that's completely normal and expected. So, Callie, I do want to let you finish. Sorry for jumping in there.
No, yeah.
So what time was that deployment? That was like 58 minutes almost. I wonder why that was so... I wonder why that was so different. Maybe it was supposed to be 58:29, not 53:29. That was kind of interesting that that was wrong. G Buck says, I just joined Patreon. I actually just saw that, G Buck. I was gonna call you out, but I'll call you by your YouTube name instead of the one that you just registered on Patreon. But thank you very much for joining Patreon. Appreciate you becoming part of the inner circle. Now, as part of a Patreon member, you can also get access to our secret Discord channels, which my other Patreon members always tell me that it's not secret if you keep telling people about it. But the content is secret. So G Buck now has access as a Patreon member. So thanks for that. Thanks for your support. And it's that kind of support that will help cover our live telemetry streams, like we had here today, because we do have to pay for those, and so that's I appreciate you. Says thanks, love watching your broadcast. Thanks, G Buck. Really appreciate that. All right, let's see. So we've got deployment. We're good to go. We're still getting a lot of video footage from the second stage. Usually they cut us off at this point. Kind of hang out here with this view for a minute. No deployment. We had deployment. Deployment is done.
It actually means that we're traveling at a speed that would put you from ESA's headquarters in Paris, France.
And we can actually see if we jump back to our telemetry, which is one of these buttons. There we go. If we take a quick preview at our telemetry, you can see where stage 1 ended up at 25,090 kilometers per hour. the velocity of stage 2. Obviously, stage 1 is at 0. I'm told there's a bit of a rounding error, which is why it says 1.49. So there's a rounding error, which is why it's showing 1.49 kilometers per hour instead of just 0. But stage 2 at 25,000 and now 89 kilometers per hour, looks like, on the stage 2 telemetry. So there, we'll keep this up for a minute and see if they have anything new to show us. But Dave Thompson's excited that I mentioned the space mice. I'm glad I could meet those needs there. Let's see what. Not another space animal, please. Yeah, everything's animals around here. What was the new animal? Robert Stevenson added a new animal. I think there have been 2 different GOES programs, as the G in GOES stands for geostationary. Shouldn't any sats that go into geostationary orbit have a different name? I'm a little confused by that. I don't entirely follow that. TP Seeker says the conspiracy theorists are going to go nuts over the chunks of ice debris. They always do. Nothing we can do about that. Any new Rocket Lab recovery pictures? Not that I've seen. I just had the other one, which I think I shared out on Twitter. I know I shared it on our Discord. Someone at SpaceX did a typo? Yeah, maybe. I don't know why the deployment was so much later than the SpaceX press kit said it was going to be. That was kind of weird. And then Fritz46 says 1 second after SECO seems a bit close. I agree with. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody had a typo there, because 1 second after SECO did surprise me when I typed it into my events list here. I was like, really, one second after SECO? That would be very close, because usually you get a call out about that you're in a nominal insertion orbit, and then there's usually a couple of minutes. Well, pretty much what we saw today. There's a couple of minutes, and then they deploy it. So I'm guessing somebody just had a typo, because 1 second after SECO does seem that did seem a bit extreme. Hey, Ron Sparkman over on Facebook says, "What's up, Tori?" Ron does some pretty awesome live streams himself on Stardom. You should go take a look at that YouTube channel. I've been watching a couple of those late in the evening, at least for me here on the East Coast. Definitely go check out his stuff. He has a bunch of panelists that occasionally I'm on there with him, but he's got a bunch of panelists, and they chatted up quite at a good length for about a lot of different topics. Definitely check out his Stardom channel there. Can you replay launch and landing by chance? The wife hasn't seen it. Sure, we'll replay that since we got nothing new happening here on this end. Let's back it up and we will replay it. Let's see. I'll go to which view do I want? How about this one? No, I'm gonna do this one so people know that our timeline is passed. We'll put the replay text up. When is Starlink 16? Well, the next one is going to be Starlink, well, what I call Starlink 15, and it is tomorrow night. There's already an event on my YouTube channel, so go check that and set yourself a reminder for tomorrow night.
That's actually a sound suppression system that occurs to allow the sound of the vibration of the sound to actually be suppressed, and it also helps with some cooling as well.
Will there be a need for more astronauts in the near future? It wouldn't surprise. I mean, I don't think NASA has anything planned other than what they've done in the past, but we could see a lot of private astronauts coming up. So yeah, for sure.
1, 0. And liftoff of Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich, continuing a legacy of ocean observation and international collaboration to benefit all humanity.
Remember, no pad mics here today, so we don't get that awesome sound at launch.
M1D propulsion is nominal.
Still a beautiful sight, and we do get sound eventually. It's just a little bit delayed.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Beautiful views too on that last camera there.
Vehicle is supersonic. Vehicle is experiencing maximum aerodynamic pressure.
So there we heard that call for max Q. We also heard vehicle is supersonic, meaning it's traveling faster than the speed of sound.
So we'll continue on with this replay here while I get to a couple other questions. Then we're going to wrap up here shortly.
The plume there created by those 9 Merlin 1D engines.
I always forget how big these things are. Yeah, these are... Falcon 9 is huge. It's very big. It's always hard to remember just how huge it really is. So we're going to we'll take this through landing, and then we'll probably wrap up here. It'll be the final replay, the last thing we do. Replay the deployment. Yeah, oh yeah, we should replay the deployment too. We'll do that as well.
Beautiful clear skies there from Vandenberg on the ground.
Would be unusual for payload deploy scheduled times and actual deploy scheduled times to be off by...
Just a reminder coming up here.
Would it... Are you saying, would it be unusual for payload deploy and scheduled times to be off by more than a bit? It's not unusual for it to not match the timeline perfectly. What is unusual is for it to not match the relative timeline. This is the point where I wish they would have stayed like right here. Let me back that up for just a second. You can see the boost back burn. Oh, no, it's not going to back up. Now we did it. Well. Okay. I guess we're not going to have that. I guess we'll have to refresh that and see if we can get the feedback up here. Because I wanted to show you that boost back burn, which was pretty cool looking. Or, well, we almost saw boost back burn. Here it is. So let's see, let us fast forward a touch here. So this is where we had cutoff. There was separation. Look at the end of this right here, right before they cut off the camera. Watch that first stage. I thought it looked like you could see the engine ignite right at the end for boost back burn. Right there. Oh, just like for half a second. Right there. Let me see if we can back it up. Can we go frame by frame? You can kind of see right here. So as you see, it's dark. Looks like you got engine ignition right there on the first stage. I thought that was kind of cool looking, but then they cut away from it like so quickly. That was a bit of a bummer. How does the rocket just pause in midair? Yeah, that was the video. You see the payload fairing dropping away here. It's kind of cool to see. It's always nice to see that. And that was going to soft land in the water. I should throw the replay text up so everybody knows it's a replay. That's going to soft land in the water. Actually, should have already soft landed in the water. What's the purpose of Starlink? Starlink is going to be a low Earth orbit satellite constellation that will provide high-speed internet service pretty much anywhere in the world. Right now, there's no polar coverage, but the plan eventually is to cover the entire globe with internet service. And not just internet service, because we have satellite internet already, but this will be high-speed internet service. Our satellite internet right now is not super high speed, but this would be high-speed internet service. wherever you are. And actually, interesting note, the drone ship, just read the instructions, that just brought the Crew 1 booster back into port, had 2 Starlink antennas on it. So it looks like the drone ship has Starlink internet. So the crew out there can get internet service via Starlink. Maybe that means they'll have more reliable video feeds for us, but we don't really know, because I mean the Starlink is going to have the same problem as the existing video feed, which is as the rocket comes down, it's going to shake the drone ship, which would disrupt your feed to any sort of orbiting satellite. Any updates on SN8? It looks like SN8 is going to get the 15-kilometer hop attempt maybe as early as November 30th. So maybe next week we might get a hop attempt for SN8. All right, so now let's see. Can we let's fast forward to the landing here. We'll replay the landing. That beautiful view of landing, and then right here, we're gonna replay this. Get our sonic booms in.
It's got its grid fins out, and that's helpful. It has to use those things.
Yep, it has to help steer it as it's making its way back to land. So it's the steering mechanism.
It's really interesting that it lands right next to the launch pad. We have a little tent over top of us, so we're not going to see that first boost back burner. But we have a clear shot of it coming down onto the pad. The other thing we're waiting for, and we're making sure that we keep track of, is the engine cutoff of stage.
I love how hard you can see that cut over. So generally, let me back that up for just a second. So the booster generally targets the water until the very last minute to make sure that it doesn't damage the launch facilities there. So you can see right here as the landing burn startup happens, you can see that little maneuver there with the grid fins that push it right there back towards the landing pad to just fine tweak that last bit of alignment so it actually heads to the launch pad. And that's on purpose in case anything were to happen and the engines didn't ignite and it's just going to crash into the earth. They generally target the water just offshore, and then they bring it back in with the grid fins at the very last minute when they know, all right, engine's igniting, let's push it back in and we'll be good to go for landing.
Coming in at an angle and just straightening out. What do you think, Jesse? That's amazing.
Oh my goodness, I might cry right now.
This is so incredible. Every time I see this, it's just
slowing down so perfectly.
Perfect.
Just hovering. There's the sonic booms we talked about, and touchdown.
Oh my we heard that.
There we go, our big sonic booms. Love that. All right, and the last thing we'll show. We'll show that deployment here real quick, right there. There was deployment. Heading off into orbits. They didn't full screen. There we go. Now we got the full screen. Heading off all on its own. There was deployment. All right. Well, with that, now that we've got successful deployment, I think that's the point where I'm going to wrap up. I'll remind you once more, if you want to chat in between launches, consider joining our Discord. It's free. There's no cost to it. And you can jump in and join us there and chat it up with us and all the other 1,200 members of our inner community there. And if you want to take that extra step, consider becoming a Patreon member or a YouTube channel member. And that's how I pay for stuff like the live telemetry streams that we got from Flight Club today. So that's going to do it for me. Hopefully I see you over on Discord. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend. Maybe see you tomorrow for Starlink, which is going to be launching late tomorrow night or in the evening, late evening-ish. But hopefully we'll see you back here for that. And I'm going to wrap up here now. So my name's Tori. This is Overlook Horizon, and I will see you guys, hopefully, tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody. All right, goodbye.